Hello world, from whichever time zone you're catching me from, my name is MD90. Welcome to my YouTube channel. If you're not subscribed to the channel, make sure you hit that subscribe button, turn on the bell notification to all so that you do not miss the uploads that come up. And the easiest way for you to navigate the channel is to head to the playlist. You'll find videos curated for you based on your interest. So if you're interested in the Kutika podcast, you'll find a playlist for that. For news and trends, there's a playlist for that. Exclusive with MD90, a bunch of playlists that are created based on your interest. So the easiest way to navigate the channel is head straight to the playlist and you'll find what you're here for. Consider becoming a member of the channel. Right next to the subscribe button is a join button. You click on the join button so that you can become a member of the channel. You support the team on the production and a number of things that we're doing here, and we appreciate that.
Well, the death of former president of the Republic of Zambia, Edgar Chagwa Lungu, is under investigation. It seems to have come back in the public domain for discussion. So as you may be aware, the past, I think, 2 weeks or so, if not 3, the updates from South Africa with regard to the body of President Edgar Chagwa Lungu's repatriation has been silent pretty much. There hasn't been an update from the government side, neither has there been an update, at least an official update from the family side through Makebi Zulu. It seems like they're just fighting through the process in court, and no updates have come from that. So it seems like some South African institution has decided to demand an investigation into his death. So this is what has been reported by Kalemba. So they say a South African pressure group has told the Sunday Times of Zambia that its government is investigating the death of Zambia's 60th Republican President Edgar Lungu. The probe follows claims by some Patriotic Front PF officials, official members of the Tonse Alliance and Lungu's family, that he was allegedly poisoned in South Africa or on South African soil. Last week, the Progressive Forces of South Africa, PFSA, petitioned South African Minister of Police to launch a criminal inquiry to clarify the circumstances and protect South Africans' reputations. So pretty much they're demanding to say those claims that were raised by the Patriotic Front and some sections of the Tonse Alliance, those are supposed to be investigated so South Africa can be cleared of those allegations. But I think at some point should be members of the Patriotic Front or Lungu's family did state to say a postmortem had been done on his body, and it's just a result that haven't been published. So it seems like this pressure group is trying to twist the family into publicizing those results from that. So we'll wait and see how that plays out. But on the other hand, the Patriotic Front is pushing to say our hearts remain broken. President Hakainde Hichilema allow President Edgar Chagwa Lungu to be put to rest. And then people are just wondering, what do you mean President Hakainde Hichilema should allow that? When he can easily let go of the body and have it brought back to Zambia for a state funeral. So those arguments keep on popping up from different sides of the aisle. Wait and see how that plays out. But yeah, so that's where that mostly this argument by the Patriotic Front started coming off because, as you may be aware, just a couple of hours ago, President Hakainde Hichilema was hosting a meeting with UPND Lusaka Province leadership at Mulungushi Conference Center, and made some statements at Mulungushi where you're saying is in easy contact with South African President Cyril Ramaphosa and also Zimbabwean President Mnangagwa. And this was in relation to Joseph Malanji's case. I will give you an update as we go on, but that's where it's coming from. So now the Patriotic Front is coming to say it seems like it's still the president that is pushing the agenda of this fight in court. So they're saying they let him let go of that fight so that Edgar Chagwa Lungu can be put to rest in South Africa. On the other hand, Patriotic Front hasn't recovered from the Mouse Sampa coup and Lungu's death. So according to Given Luminda, he had an interview in which he says PF acting president Given Luminda has admitted that the opposition party is still struggling to recover from what he describes as 2 major blows in 2023, Mouse Sampa coup and the death of former President Edgar Lungu. So speaking to Millennium Radio yesterday, Luminda said the two events have shaken the very foundation of the Patriotic Front, leaving the once dominant party bruised and struggling to find its footing. The former Justice Minister explained that the internal turmoil that erupted in 2023 when a faction led by Mao Sampa took control of the party was a bloodless coup, or was a bloodless coup with that deeply wounded the Patriotic Front. And then, while the second tragedy is said was with the death of former President Edgar Lungu, the PF leadership and the PF leader and the chairperson of the Tonse Alliance, a loss that left the party in a prolonged mourning. And they're still in mourning. So he says those are the major events that have shaken the Patriotic Front. That's that coup that happened by Mao Sampa, and then also Edgar Shagalungu's death, and that's where the wrangles are stemming from. So that's given Windows an analysis of why the party is struggling. Now the issue is, how do they resolve the issue going into 2026? Because campaign season is set if you in motion. So if you sit back, you get sidelined. It's as easy as that. While Ismail Sampa put up a post that was referred to President Hakainde. This was the time he was in opposition. Says, when your stomach is full, you will assume there is something wrong with those complaining of hunger. And then he was quoting the president with regard to a statement where he was asking some people to say that people were claiming to say the situation is worse in the country now that the UPND has taken over government. So the president was asking to say, where do you live? Because according to him, the situation is better in the country, to which Mao Sampa was responding to say, referring to his own words in that sense. And then further on, the part of the statement that was made by the president during the UPND meeting a couple of hours ago, he was like, I'm going to donate Malanji's helicopters to Zambia Air Force, ZAF, so that they can be used to deliver mails to our people. If there is an emergency, President Hakainde Hichilema. So it's in this statement he made where he also put up revelations to say how they got the evidence in the Malanji case and how they got the witnesses. He described how he was interacting with the President of South Africa, Cyril Ramaphosa, and then he asked him to help him locate the jet that Malanji had allegedly taken to South Africa, Johannesburg to be specific, where he had gone to hide it, they said. And then also the other jet was also, the other helicopter, not jet, the other helicopter was hidden in Zimbabwe. He also talked to President Mnangagwa in Zimbabwe and asked him to help him bring back that helicopter. And both of them were brought back. And then the other missing piece in the investigation was Turkey, where he had gone with the presidential jet to go and pick up some money, allegedly. And then he contacted the president of that side to avail some witnesses. And the witnesses seems like they came for the court case. He revealed a lot during the meeting at Mulungushi yesterday. So this is what he was referring to. According to the Daily Nation, they've just put up this headline saying, who gave Malanji presidential jet? President Hakainde Hichilema says there was no way that Joseph Malanji could have access to the presidential jet to fly to Turkey and withdraw $11 million without express authority from the one who was using it. So referring to President Hakainde, referring to President Edgar Shagalungu in that sense, to say there's only one way that Malanji could have access to that presidential jet, and that's with the authority of Edgar Shagalungu in that sense. So that conversation still continues, and that's where that revelation came from. And that's why the PF was pushing to say, since he was talking to Ramaphosa in that sense, there's no difference. He might be talking to him with regard to Edgar Shagalungu's case. And that's why they're advocating to say, let Edgar Shagalungu be put to rest anyway. That's the debate for another day. And then President Hakainde Hichilema orders the forfeiture of Malanji's helicopter to ZAF. Obviously, it's the same news headline. This was published by the UPND. And different extracts from the speech that the president gave. And then former Vice President Hakainde says the opposition should consider starting to prepare for 2031 because President Hakainde Hichilema has performed exceptionally well, which simply means in the upcoming general elections in a couple of months next year, 2026, it seems like he's won. That's what Hakainde says in the news diggers. While this Bowman Usambo wins the case with regard to a mine, he's been awarded 25,000 US dollars. He had a fight to win in the mine that he had invested in, so a sigh of relief for Bowman Usambo. While John Sangwa forms a movement and quits the legal practice, pretty much he has stepped away from his law firm to pursue a movement. Obviously, this is in preparation for or what is likely to be his presidential run ahead of the 2026 general elections. And some of the news headlines there in the Daily Revelation, some individual is saying I can mobilize funds to dollar for dollar against a UPND Mudolo. I do not know who that individual is, but but much more importantly, in my transformational program for Zambia, which they do not have, is my transformational program. So it seems like that's another presidential candidate who says he can organize money equivalent to what the UPND can organize dollar for dollar to campaign pretty much against the UPND. It seems like the campaign strategy. Why is this interesting image was put up by Brian Apunda with a caption, and which he says this is a socialist party, should be now Secretary General, if not media director. He says the Zambian picture of the century. And then he says, here is then Honorable Chief Justice Ernest Sakala snubbed Michael Chifesata as handshake in church at the Cathedral of the Holy Cross in early 2011. Months down the line, the same man saw him in as president, as Zambia's fifth Republican president. I can only imagine what was going through the minds of the two. I am sure Chief Justice must have sweated in all sorts and at the thought that the person he had snubbed would be his boss. Moral lesson here: never look down on anybody. Again, when people snub you or your handshake, never lose focus. They eventually come back and put you in the right place. That's according to Brian Apunda, simply saying this is the picture of a century where Chief Justice, the man that you see seated there, snubbed Michael Chifesata's handshake, and then later on he had to swear him in as president. Some of the news headlines there, Times says, listen to the people. The arts has been hit again. Paddy Miss Amai Gulu leaves a huge void as local entertainment industry. That's people mourning Amai Gulu from Paddy. Munduvire smells blood. UPND failure gives MPs more hope easily to oust Hakainde Hichilema. Allegedly, Munduvire says there's a possibility of Hakainde Hichilema being ousted. But I don't know if he means impeachment with the use of UPND MPs. I highly doubt that that's even possible. But anyway, it's politics. Alcohol abuse, a national crisis. That's according to Bishop Andrew Mwenda. So it says Zambia is an alcoholic nation. That situation should be changed. And then says the idea that a little bit is harmless and good for the stomach, says Zambians don't just take a glass, they empty the bottle, and pretty much saying alcohol is becoming a serious issue in the nation. Amend the cost of living. There is no reason to amend the constitution, that says John Sangwa there. He's in the race. It's not all rosy. Caritas. So a critique to President Hakainde Hichilema saying those that are saying the situation is worse now than it was in 2021. The Caritas responded to say, look at the situation on the ground. President Hakainde Hichilema should not be surprised that Zambians are complaining that things are become worse because the reality is that indeed things are not well. So that's a rebuttal there. I've had to prove myself because people claimed I used bottom power to rise. That's Dorothy says people have been calling her pretty much like a hoe. She rose through a political career or whatever else because of her bottom power. And she simply says, no, she has had to prove herself now. She's now Dr. Dorothy, if I'm not mistaken. More news headlines, and pretty much that's the news. Let me just show you more news headlines before we break the broadcast. They wanted to kill me. Joe Black APO reviews abduction and torture by the UPND cadres. I'm sure you followed that news headline. And that's the news, ladies and gentlemen. Have a beautiful week ahead.
That one, who keeps on changing locations?
Oh,
Yes.
I know. I was supposed to sign for it?
Yes.
Ladies and gentlemen, I've received an interesting gift. I'm sure those that know what that is. Yo, those that don't, but I'm pretty sure you'll find out soon.
Everybody loves content creators until it's somebody that they know. And I'm going to tell you exactly why people in your life can't support you. I want you to kind of take this video as motivation to keep going if you're first starting out on social media. Your biggest fan is going to be a complete stranger, and your biggest hater is going to be someone who's known you your entire life. Nothing reveals true friends faster than putting yourself out there. When you start putting yourself out there, it's going to make some people feel uncomfortable, because what you're doing is you're showing a level of confidence that for some people, they know they don't possess. People judge because it's harder to think. It's harder to think, why does this make me feel so uncomfortable? Why can't I support a person that I've known my entire life? It takes nothing to like, comment, and share. People never punch down, they always punch up. You will never be criticized by someone who's doing more than you. You will always be criticized and judged by someone who's doing the absolute least, who probably hates their lives, because happy people aren't hating, and hating people aren't happy. Some of the most incredible people I have ever met were people I met online who are in business and had a platform. They're the busiest people you will ever meet, and they always engage with my content. If you don't support your friends, you're weird as hell.